Hello there, I'm Rylan, and this is an interview I had with the hobbyist miner. Now, I initially reached out to him to take part in a collab video that I have coming up shortly about softwares, but he was like, "No, no, I'll call, we'll have a call," and he was very friendly with that, and we eventually turned into an interview. So, yeah, this is that interview. Let's hop right in. What software have you found helpful with mining and content creation?
Sure. So for pretty much, I use two different types of software. The first one I use is DaVinci Resolve, which is an entirely free product. I recommend it for anybody getting into content creation of any kind. Entirely free for home and personal use. There's a lot of really good videos out there from other content creators on how to use those products, boatloads of them. So that is one that has become a staple for me. And then on the flip side, for any of the graphics that I use in videos or on thumbnails, I'm using Adobe Photoshop.
Yeah, I've heard of those softwares before. I'm kind of familiar with them. Um,
Awesome.
my next question about that was, what softwares do you think that what softwares that you use that you don't really think twice about?
Softwares do I use that I not really think twice about? I mean, definitely Photoshop, because of the fact that it's kind of a staple out there.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of free products that people use and free websites they use and things like that, which are great to get your feet wet. And I have no background in graphic design or video editing. Everything's self-taught. So I've looked everything up on YouTube on how to do things, or read articles on how to do things. So it's not like I'm coming into this with more experience than anybody else. But yeah, I would say Adobe Photoshop is literally, I don't know of anything else better in the scene or that makes it easier as a content creator.
Yeah, maybe I need to look into that myself. Right now, I'm just using your free online. You look up free photo
Yep.
software, where whatever I can find,
Yep.
basically. So yeah, I need to. Yeah, I'll look that up myself later on. I just have other questions here that
Fire away.
mhm. From the point of someone who's never used HiveOS, do you have any advice to share about it? Also, what are the main takeaway, or what are the main features of it that you like compared to Windows?
Sure, absolutely. So I've actually never set up mining in Windows before.
Oh, really?
It's just because I came across HiveOS very early on,
Mm-hmm.
and it really was a no-brainer. So with HiveOS for me, having a dedicated system to that, I think is invaluable. Being able to monitor your rigs remotely from your phone, from the HiveOS app, being able to graphically manage them at a high level. I mean, that's the nice thing. It's like I chat with people that are using like Windows, which is nothing wrong with Windows. There's a lot of people that use Windows for mining, but it's like, all right, how do you manage 10 rigs at once? Well, I got to log into each one and I got to check them. It's like, nope, I have a dashboard next to me that literally shows me all my rigs at a high level instantly. It shows me all their temps, their fan speeds. I can see all my hash rates in 10 seconds by looking at it. It's like, you can't do that in Windows. I mean, granted, there's a lot of other software out there that will help with that. Or it's like how do you access that rig remotely when you're on the go? Well, I have to use my phone and I have to remote into it, and then it's like, nope, no thanks, I'm good. So I think it's ease of use. Like, granted, I know well before my time of getting into mining, that was the way that you did it. You used RDP software or third-party applications to access that Windows rig, and then you killed the batch file, restarted it, or restarted the Windows rig, and it just seems it seems like you're making your job harder as a miner.
Mm-hmm.
So HiveOS was definitely focused on ease of use for the individual.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. I just have one rig, so I can just use like the Chrome remote desktop for me. And I've been
Yep.
wanting.
Yep.
I know once I get into the multiple rig area, it's probably going to be a whole lot better to switch over to HiveOS. And I know.
Yeah, I've never heard of anybody going to HiveOS and then going, nope, I'm going back.
Okay.
It's always like that's always a one-way trip from what I've heard.
Yeah. It sounds like a learning curve there.
It's not too bad, to be honest with you. Like HiveOS, you just have to know where to go for what you're looking for.
Mhm.
That's all it is. And there's so many good guides out there to kind of lead you to water. It's very easy for beginners to pick up. I think where people struggle with HiveOS is your rig is dedicated to HiveOS. So meaning like a lot of people that I find still are on Windows are like, oh, well, I'm using it, I'm gaming on it, but I'm mining on it at the same time, so I can't go to HiveOS. So it's like, okay, totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of in that hybrid place. But when you have dedicated rigs to mining, it makes it much easier to pull that trigger on HiveOS.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. My next question is, how did you find out about mining, and what drawed you to it?
Yeah, great question. So a few years ago, I had stumbled across, I'd say maybe 3 years ago, I had kind of stepped into mining a little bit, and then it was not where it is now. It was more of a like, I really knew nothing. I came across this website called MinerGate that you could download an application and install it on a computer, very similar to like NiceHash now,
Mm-hmm.
and it would it was just CPU mining at that time, and I was mining on a bunch of i3 processors, and it would look at the most profitable algorithm in that moment and swap the algorithm to it. And then it had a nice GUI that you could look at. And I mean, I probably did that for about a year. And I probably had about 25 different desktop computers or like HPs or Dells or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and just had them running on there. So I just literally in my basement had a bunch of wire racks with all these computers on it and had it running. And I could monitor it through a web UI on their website. And I mined like 20 different types of coins. Some of those projects are past, gone, and others of them were actually like Ethereum was in there, Ethereum Classic was in there, and stuff like that. Yeah,
That must have been
so
exciting.
that was a while. Yeah, so that is where I originally got started, and I was like, this isn't really doing anything for me. So I sold the desktop computers for like $100 a pop. Moved on with my day. Fast forward into a year ago. Just over a year. Beginning of February was my 1 year anniversary of mining and content creation. And going back, it was about December. So February is when I started. December is when November, December is when I really started to get back into it. And I got hooked. I started watching as much content as I could, learning as much as I could. I just kind of had the interest. And it pulled me in, and I decided February 5th to record and post my first video.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I have around that same time frame is the same time I got into mining as well. I was a complete noob. I didn't even know that you needed a 4 gig, or you needed anything over 4 gigs to mine Ethereum. I was just click one button on NiceHash, and it was just
got it.
Yeah. So, but we learn a lot as we
Taking
go.
care of it for you. Yep, 100%. I mean, my first card, I watched a ton, so I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I wanted to test the waters, so I went and bought an MSI 970. Like, found something like 4 gig card and put it on Ravencoin, and it was doing like, I think it was like 5 to 7 maybe mega hash on Ravencoin at that time. And I think I mined with it for about 2 weeks and was like, all right, I'm sold. I sold it, and I bought 12 RX 470s, 4 gig cards. And from there, it was just, took off.
Yeah. I had the same first card as well. I had a 970 as well.
Oh, nice.
That was my first it could actually do something besides Minesweeper or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yep. So where do you see your crypto operation in 6 months from now, 2 years from now, and 5 years from now?
Oh, so 6 months from now, I'll most likely have my mining room that I built in the basement maxed out.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I'm at 68 graphics cards in there, and I have beginning of March I'll be doing a 12 GPU 6600 rig, and that's gonna kind of push that number there quite a bit. That'll push me up to 80 GPUs in there. So 6 months from now, I see it at 100 GPUs in my mining rig, or in my mining room at this point. Looking down the road, a mining shed is definitely on the horizon. That's my next evolution on my property. So I have already started looking into that. I already figured out what shed I'm going to go with. My next step is really just leveling out the property and getting that done and such. The wiring won't be too bad because it's up against my house, so that'll be nice. 2 years from now that's a big one. It's really going to come down to the profitability of the market for me. I mean, I make most of my profitability, believe it or not, off of YouTube, and then the product of my YouTube is cryptocurrency. So, most of my decisions, my purchases are based off of success on YouTube, not necessarily on crypto mining. But that being said, in 2 years, I expect to still be in the situation I am. I have a mining room and I'll have a mining shed. 5 years from now, if everything stays the way it is or grows, I've definitely considered a leasing out a warehouse of some kind, a space of some kind, and dedicating it towards that. But yeah, I mean, I hate to reach too far. I hate to dream too much, only because of the fact of like there's so much up in the air regarding U.S. legislation with cryptocurrency and with the cryptocurrency market. It's like, man, 2 years is long term at this point, just without knowing what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, so you're just looking to just keep on expanding, and if everything looks good, just keep on expanding. Even there's no stopping point.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a bunch of people went and sold a bunch of their 4 gig cards over the last 6 weeks or so, or 2 months or so, and I'm like, you're crazy. I'm like, I'm buying stuff up. I mean, I bought more cards in the last 6 weeks than I have in the last like 3 months or more. Because for me, I just keep growing it. Growing it is kind of my mentality. And it's worked so far, and I still really enjoy it, so I can't complain.
Yeah, most people say, we can't mine Ethereum. Ethereum's going to be unmineable anyway shortly, so you can't really make that argument when you're selling those cards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so new. I mean, I still compare myself to being so new. I'm just over a year now, and so for me, I started with 4 gig cards, and that's my staple. Like, I still have a lot of 4 gig cards. I would say in the last 6 months, I've moved more towards 3060s, 3060 Ti's, 1660 Ti's, 6 gig and higher in there, 6600s. So I've increased my Ethereum output significantly, but for me, like I'm mining Ethereum Classic right now. I still got Ergo going as well. I got both 4 gig algorithms, and I don't plan to change that. I think it's a phenomenal avenue to go. I mean, Ergo is just one cryptocurrency, and I think we as a community a lot of newer miners put too much faith in Ethereum. Like, oh, Ethereum's it. When Ethereum's done, we're done. It's like, nope, just one of many cryptocurrencies.
Mm-hmm. What are things that you have learned about mining and YouTube that you wish you knew once you started?
That's a great one. So when I started mining, I very much put the value of my purchases in the graphics card, but not the value into the supporting hardware. So when I first started, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna spend money on motherboards. I'm not gonna spend money on power supplies. I'm gonna go ahead and just, find these old computers and gut them and use those. Mm-hmm. Well, they were a blessing and a curse. From a financial perspective, they weren't much money, so it was great. And I threw a bunch of splitters in there, but the splitters worked like 50% of the time. And I had so many struggles with those splitters, and some days they were awesome, some days they were a nightmare. And so about 6 months in, I went, I'm done with cheap hardware supporting my mining rigs, because I was spending more time trying to keep my mining rigs up and running on this really crappy old hardware than putting into content creation. And it was like, this is crazy. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I need to pull the trigger. So about 6 months in, I was like, all right, I'm going to buy the proper motherboards. I'm going to buy the proper power supplies. And it has been a really good pivot and decision. And I wish I would have done that from the start.
Mm-hmm. What crypto projects do you think are promising that are like still new?
I think Flux is the next Ethereum. Mm-hmm. I've said it multiple times on videos and stuff like that, and shows and such, and I really do. Flux has everything under the sun going on its current platform right now, and it's an easy pivot. I feel like. And so I probably have about 25% of my entire farm on Flux right now. And I've actually considered, after my March build, just building towards Flux.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I'm focusing on moving forward. There's so much potential there. It's insane. A lot of these other projects after Ethereum, if Ethereum goes to proof of stake in June, that's a huge if. I doubt it. I think they'll reschedule it again. But if it does happen, a lot of these other projects like don't have a ton going for them on their blockchain and platforms. Like there's not a lot going there. And man, Flux is bulging at the seams when it comes to all the things that are going on in that community. So Flux is where I see things pivoting to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good perspective. So the next question kind of ties in with this one. Would that be your favorite altcoin, or is there like one that you have besides Bitcoin and Ethereum? You know, would that be your like all-time favorite besides the others?
Sure. So if you asked me a few months ago, I would have said Ravencoin.
Mm-hmm.
But because I started mining Ravencoin back in February of last year, and I mined it on my 470s for a long time. But the fact that Ravencoin really fell behind the curve when it came to new technologies, when it came to new projects, and so when the halving hit and it was not fruitful in any way, I was like, as a miner, I was like, all right, what else we got out there? And so I was really excited about Ergo. I'm still excited about Ergo. A lot of the hype has died down about Ergo. It was looking really good up there around $18 or so. Now we're down quite a fourth of that. But I'm still mining it, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Flux is the only thing right now I'm excited about. I am mining Ethereum Classic because I think a lot of the Ethereum farms are going to pivot to Ethereum Classic come proof of stake, only because it's the easiest. Your overclock settings will stay the same. Your power consumption stays the same. Your heat and airflow management stays the same. It's like, from a business perspective, it's the easy pivot. So I think a lot of farms will pivot to Ethereum Classic in the first week or two until we see where things go. But yeah, Flux is where I'm putting my money right now.
Yep, that's a very good project. I was just doing my research into that myself. I had heard about it, but I just never, actually looked into it. And then once I actually saw what it was doing, it was just like, wow, this is like this is a good project.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the biggest selling point as a miner, and that's kind of what I need to focus on, is the parallel assets. So being able to be rewarded for these additional parallel assets are awesome. But with Flux as a miner, the longer you've been mining Flux, the more potential you have to make even more money when each parallel asset hits. I was lucky. I started mining Flux before they started rewarding out on some of these parallel assets. So that worked out really well. So a bunch of the original like 5 or so parallel assets dropped, and it was like, great, I got a decent amount of coin from it. I'm super jealous of people that have been mining Flux for years now. It's like, holy cow, you guys made out like a bandit. But now I'm like pumped. Like when they're like, hey, we got a new parallel asset coming in March. I'm like, heck yeah, I'll take it, because then it's going to go ahead and retroactively pay me for that, which is fantastic. So I enjoy following these projects. I mean, more recently with Flux and NVIDIA's partnership, so like, great, more potential for me to see that price skyrocket. So I would say that coin has got me really excited.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's an amazing project. So you are the hobbyist miner, hobbyist. So
That's right.
there's kind of an in between of a business endeavor and a fun project, or hobbyist. With cryptocurrency mining, it's kind of an in between. What do you think? What do you see it more as, the business endeavor or the fun project?
Great question. So I think the fun project has turned into a business endeavor at this point. People always hit me up. They're like, "How do you call yourself the hobbyist miner?" it's just with how many GPUs I have, or which I am still a very small fish in that pond. I mean, 68 graphics cards to a beginner is like, holy cow. But my fellow peers in the content creation scene and stuff like that, I'm the small guy when it comes to that. But
Mm-hmm.
I started out, so my first year of content creation and mining, I didn't know what would happen. Like, I didn't know that if my channel would be successful or would flop. A majority of YouTube channels flop. Most of them
Yeah.
flop. So I wasn't putting too much effort into it. I made sure that before I launched my channel, I had a logo made, had the banners made. I did my research. I mean, I spent months doing my research into the YouTube scene on what I needed to do, what I shouldn't do, things like that.
So unfortunately, the tail end of the recording that I did with him got corrupted, but that was the last question I asked him anyway. So yeah, thanks for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Yeah, bye.